You're talking about his replay talk.
Oftentimes, I proceed with the assumption that if they call it a non-scoring play, I believe they're not speculating in any way. That is a preposterous statement, and an alert listener has given me fodder to prove it. The week before, in Cleveland, I'm going to take my glasses off for this.
This is getting
definitive
serious.
point.
Jerome Ford at the goal line. I still think the Steelers stopped him. He's stopped, so it's a non-scoring play at the goal line. If it were Mike Tomlin, he would say, well, the officials must have gotten it right. They're definitive. Kevin Stefanski challenged the non-scoring play, and Jerome Ford was awarded a touchdown the week before.
Do you know, though, that Stefanski, somebody in his ear was saying, Coach, they blew it. Challenge. They blew it.
They were
Challenge.
wrong. I didn't see it on challenge. No, the point here is just because they call it a non-scoring play doesn't mean that you don't challenge. That's exactly what Tomlin said.
I'm saying that they may have had somebody in his booth may have saw it definitively and said, Coach, they blew it. Challenge. Tomlin didn't get that from his guy.
Why
upstairs.
are you defending this?
I'm just saying it makes sense to me, the argument.
What argument?
If the guy upstairs can't tell you to challenge and you didn't see it yourself, how do you challenge?
Mike Tomlin said, forget the guys upstairs.
I can't forget the guys upstairs,
He is,
Joe.
because he said oftentimes I, Mike Tomlin, proceed with the assumption that if they call it a non-scoring play, then I believe they're not speculating in any way. That involves nobody else.
No, it
involves Tomlin.
Everybody.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it
does.
does.
It doesn't. He says, I proceed. I proceed. And that is a bad assumption to say that because
Matty,
they called
where do
it.
you come down on this? If somebody in his ear, he may say, okay, I didn't see it well enough. I'm going to let it go because they on the field called it right away a non-touchdown. But if somebody is in his ear saying, Mike, you got a challenge.
He's not talking about anybody in his ear.
See, I disagree. He said the guys upstairs didn't see it.
No, he said today, and I'll say it for the millionth time, oftentimes I proceed.
To start with
but
the guy upstairs can overrule that.
With the assumption that if they call it a non-scoring play, then I believe they're not speculating in any way, period. Which I think is an absurd, ridiculous statement that would point to him as the last man on earth who trusts NFL officiating. Then we can get into what happens in the booth. But the idea that just because somebody is ruled not to have scored, therefore I trust the officials, was disproven the week before. Although I still don't think Ford scored. There was no definitive replay.
What Tomlin should have said, in my opinion, is if I don't have a good look at it, and the guy in my ear, whoever this mystery person is now, doesn't say, hey, take another look at this, it might be a touchdown, then I proceed like they know what they're talking about. I don't think he should have mentioned the officials and his trust or distrust in them whatsoever.
See, I think what you just said is basically what he said. He said, if I don't get help from upstairs and I don't see it, I'm going to go with what 17 years of watching these, or when did they put in the review? 11?
17 years of not getting challenges,
11,
right? Yes.
2011, they put in scoring plays are reviewed. If he doesn't get the help from upstairs, I see what he's saying. But maybe I'm going to blame the guy upstairs for not telling him, Mike, the replay showed, but he said they didn't get a good view of it.
What he basically said was, if I don't get help from upstairs, then I assume the officials are right on a non-scoring play.
That's the absurd part of it. Unless I see it better myself. That's what he said, yes.
Right, and that to me is absurd, to assume that the officials were right just because they called it a non-touchdown. That's the simple little part that is absurd to me. And the week before was disproven. Even if somebody upstairs said, hey, you got to challenge that, it was a non-scoring play that they definitively called a non-touchdown. And I wouldn't believe them for that, Bolsey.
Yeah, and now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, he mentioned how all the scoring plays are reviewed, but how did that factor into what he was talking about here? Because it wasn't a scoring play. Technically, it wasn't ruled that.
But your point,
so
Joe,
why
is
does he have more
why
trust
do we
in that?
review scoring plays, and yet we don't review scoring plays that could have been
Right.
scoring
Yeah.
plays? That
any
makes
any
no
disputed,
sense.
any
Right.
disputed
Any close call.
at the goal line, any play,
In the end zone.
right? The NFL automatically reviews it if the officials say it's a score. If they say it's a not score, even erroneously, we just won't look at that. That's the crazy part
Yeah.
of the NFL rule.
I don't understand that
It
either.
makes no. That I will agree with. Makes no sense.
Yeah, but the idea of just assuming the officials are right because they ruled it a non-score, to me, is crazy. Well, they must be right. They definitively thought it wasn't a score. Okay.
So, what should he have done? If he didn't see it clearly enough himself,
Yeah.
and his guys upstairs say, "Coach, I can't help you with that. I don't know. I didn't see it." Is he still supposed to challenge?
First of all, not rely so much on himself because he's made comments this way many, many times over the years, and he's horrible at challenging calls, or whoever upstairs is horrible. But he seems to trust himself a lot. Secondly, he should have bought some time. You want to put the blame on the guy upstairs for that? Fine. They should have bought time on that play because it was obvious from the beginning that it was highly in dispute. But separate from that, the simple statement that I trust officials if they say it's a non-touchdown is ludicrous. And again, he's the last guy on earth in that
Didn't he
case
that got
who would trust them.
Didn't